Yo, what's up guys? Again, it's your boy Alex from WooCommerce. In this video, I'm going to show you how to add and personalize WooCommerce Wishlist button in Elementor. If you're ready, let's get into it. Okay guys, first of all, I'm using MC Wishlist in this video. To add this button, we first need to add the MC Wishlist plugin to our WordPress. To do this, I go to the plugin section in the WordPress dashboard and open the Add New section. In the search box section, we should search for the MC WooCommerce Wishlist plugin, then click on the install and wait for the plugin to be installed. Well, after the plugin is installed, you can click on the activate option to activate the plugin. While the plugin is being active, let me tell you that we have three methods to add the wishlist button to our page. The first method is to use the MC Wishlist plugin settings. The second method is to use the shortcodes, and the third method is to use the free widgets that the MC Wishlist plugin has provided to us to personalize wishlist with the help of Elementor. If we want to make this setting through MC Wishlist, we must enter the MC Wishlist tab and make the related settings from the Wishlist button tab. But I want to do this process using the Elementor page builder. For this purpose, we enter Elementor Theme Builder and select the page we want to add the wishlist button to. In this tutorial, I will add wishlist button to a single product page. To do this, we have two methods. The first method is to use shortcodes. Here we must add the shortcode related to the wishlist button in the content section, which is the result of this default mode. The second solution is to use free MC Wishlist Elementor ready-made widgets. If you don't see them in the above menu, you can search the Add to Wishlist in the search box. After adding the wishlist button widget to the desired page, you have three tabs to make settings. It will include Content, Style, and Advanced. In the Content tab, you can change the contents related to the button. To change it, you must first select the button type, which has three different types. Icon only mode, which only shows the icon for you, text only mode, which only shows the text for you, and icon and text mode, which is a combination of the previous two methods. If you are on icon only or icon and text mode, you can change the icon from this section. Also, if you are in icon and text mode, by activating the separate option, a separator will be replaced between the icon and the text, and you can change its color from this section. We will set the separator color. Note that if you set the button type to icon only mode in this section, the button tooltip section will be activated for you, and you can make settings related to the tooltip from this section. After activating the tooltip, you have the tooltip direction option in this section, where you can change the direction of the tooltip, and from this section, you can also set the border radius of the tooltip. Well, I'm going to continue with icon and text mode. And let's check the final part, which is button and tooltip custom text. You can change the text of the button in this part. Of course, be careful that if you are using icon only mode, it will display a tooltip instead of text. It is possible that the text you change in this section will actually be the content of your tooltip. Well, let's go to the style section. In the style section, the first option you see is the default button style option. By activating this option, the Add to Wishlist button will get a default style according to your theme. And I don't want to use this option, so I will deactivate it. Okay, by using the typography text option, you can apply the font or text size or similar changes. In the family font section, you can change the family font related to the text. I will use the Roboto family font. You can change the text size from this section, for example 50 pixels, which is too big, 25 pixels, which is still big, so I will try 15 pixels, which is suitable. From this section, you can choose the weight of the text according to the theme. I'm going to make it bold from this section. You can choose whether your text should be uppercase, lowercase, or capitalized, or the same normal mode that exists by default. I'm going to use capitalized mode. And from the style section, you can set the text in italic mode or use the oblique option, which I guess I will set it to the normal mode. And from the decoration section, you can set a decoration for the text. You can also change the distance between characters from this section. Well, I will set it to 0. And also pay attention that the letter spacing section is for setting the distance between characters. Here is the distance related to the words themselves, which we don't need again, and I will set it to 0.1. In the next section, you can make the text color, icon, and other such settings. Of course, I did not forget to say that you can make the settings related to the icon size from this section. For example, we consider it to be 17 pixels. Well, this settings section has two tabs, normal and hover. The hover is for when you move the mouse over the button. Well, first we make the settings for the normal tab and then we go to the hover tab. I want the color of my text to be white and also the color of icon to be white. I want a green background and a border in almost the same color. So, now we increase the border for easier viewing. Okay, let's go to the hover section. The settings that I want to be applied to my button when I hover is that the color remains constant. So I set it to the same white and change the background color. So it becomes like this. The color becomes brighter. Okay, let's go to the settings related to the border section. You can set your border as you like. The default mode is solid. But in the double mode, which you can see if I increase the border width, it is like this. The dotted mode, which looks like a dot, the dashed mode, and the groove mode. Well, we need the same solid mode, and we set it on 2 pixels. The border radius of the button should be less than the other buttons. This is why I set it to 2. And in the final section of the style, you can adjust the height of the button from this section. Well, I like that the height of the button to be lower, for example 40 pixels. Okay, and from this section you can set the button margin. So in this way, of course, if you don't like all of these to be set together, I have to set this to 0 first. And you can disable the link option and consider margin only for the direction you need from this section. Well, we entered the advanced section. So far we have this beautiful look, and now we'll have to set the advanced options. In this section, because we want to place the Add to Wishlist button in the middle of the page like the Add to Cart button, we can use the margin with padding, which in this case we use padding. Set the padding as a percentage and then disable the link mode. Because I want only to have padding on one side, that's why I set it to 30, which is less. So we set it to 35, which is absolutely great. This is exactly what I want. From the width option, you can specify the width of this line that contains the button. The inline auto mode is the size of your button. It will line exactly the size of the button. The full width mode, which is 100%. You can also customize the size from the custom section. For example, you can set it to 50% so easily. Okay, in the position section you have 3 options. The default position is the position you see. The absolute position is such that the button is attached to a position on the page, and if you scroll, there is no longer displayed. And you can use the offset option to change the position. The next one is fixed position, which is placed in a part of the page, and by using this option you can choose which your button should have, horizontal orientation to right or left. And like the previous option, you can change the position of the button using offset. And in the z-index option, the z-index is placed on a text or another section. You can choose which section has priority. That is, if we give priority to this button and give a higher z-index, this button will be on the section. For example, if we consider a negative z-index of 1 and move the button to a higher position, in this case, as you can see, the Add to Cart button is placed on the Add to Wishlist button. But if we use a higher z-index, for example 2, the Add to Wishlist button will be placed on the Add to Cart button. Now, we set the z-index to 1 and we will return the position to the default mode. And in the CSS ID and CSS classes section, you can add your CSS classes and IDs to these Add to Wishlist button. Well, we enter the motion effects section. This section generally includes 4 parts: scroll effect, mouse effect, sticky, and animation mode that the user sees when he enters the page. Let's start with the scroll effect section. If you activate this option, these sections will be displayed for you. The vertical scroll option is for when you are scrolling and this button is moved up and down. If it is on up, by scrolling down, the button will go up. And if it is down, by scrolling down, the button will go down. You can also change the animation speed of the button from the speed section. And finally, you can set the viewport setting from this section. The next option is similar to this mode, with the difference that these changes and movements are done on the horizontal axis. And if the option is left, for example, it moves to the left with the scroll button. And if it is on the right option, it moves to the right with the scroll button. By activating the next option, your button will fade when you're scrolling. For example, in the fade in, the button will appear when you scroll down, and in the fade out, it will disappear when you scroll down. You can also change the fading level from this section. For example, if we choose level 5, by scrolling down, our button will not disappear completely, but if we change this to 10, the button disappears completely. The blur sections creates a blur effect for the button. In fade in mode, the blur effect is removed by scrolling down, and in fade out, the blur effect is removed by scrolling up. You can also change the level from here, like the previous option. In the rotate option, you can rotate the button by scrolling, which has the mode of left and right. And if you scroll down, the button will tilt to the right in the right option, and the opposite for the left. We also have the scale section, which can make the button bigger by scrolling down. Also in this section, you can choose on which devices these effects are shown. For example, in my settings, it is displayed on desktop, tablet, and mobile. The next option that we need to check is the mouse. In the mouse effect, you have 2 parts, 2D and 3D mode. The 2D mode has an opposite and direct option. The direct option works in such a way that if the mouse moves in any direction, the button will move in that direction. And the opposite mode is exactly the opposite of this. If the mouse moves in any direction, the button will move in the opposite direction. The 3D mode part also has these modes, only these movements is done in 3D form, as you can see. And if we put it on the opposite side and increase the speed a little, the result will be like this. Well, the next option is the sticky option, which we put on the top mode to show this section more easily. This is for when you scroll down and you want the button to remain fixed on the page. By activating this option, the button from the top of the screen will not be removed, and the bottom sticky mode is exactly the opposite, that the button will not be removed from the bottom of the screen. From the offset section, you can change the minimum distance of the button from the bottom or top of the screen. For example, we set the offset to 100 pixels, and the button will continue to move until it reaches a distance of 100 pixels from the top of the screen. And when the distance between the top of the page and the button are 100 pixels, the button remains fixed. The next mode is similar to what we explained in the first part of this section. When the user enters the page, this button will appear from the side. From here, you can adjust the speed. You can also specify the delay of this process in milliseconds. The next option is the transform option, in which you can change the button in such a way that you can rotate it or consider an offset for the button. I mean offset relative to the x-axis and offset relative to the y-axis. We also have the scale section. This way you can change the size. You can use skew, which can be relative to the x-axis or in terms of the y-axis. You can also reverse the button content on the x-axis and y. In the background section, you can consider a background for your line that has a classic mode and a gradient mode. We will do it like this. And in the gradient mode, we will have this issue in the way that we use two colors. For example, we use a green. So now it is more beautiful. You can also specify how much of the background this color fills. You can also do this for the second color and so on. In this section, you can change the color combination angle from 0 to 360 degrees. And in this section, you can choose whether this color combination is linear or radial. You can change the position of the radial mode from this section. And you can choose from which direction the radial mode starts. In the border section, you can set a border for this line in which the button is located. Well, we use a border radius of 2 pixels. Also, from this section, you can create a box shadow for this line, so that at first the color and then you can move this box. Well, I set the x-axis displacement to 0 and 1 to create a better color for the box. I would like to have a lighter color, just like that. And I want this box to be placed one higher. You can also change the amount of clarity from this section, and finally you can adjust the distribution of the box. And you can also consider insert or outline position, which makes the outline more beautiful. In the mask section, you can consider mask for your button that has the shapes of circles, flowers, and etc. You can also add your desired shape to this section from the custom section. From the size section, you can choose whether the size of the shape is fill, custom, or fit. You can also choose the position of the shape and decide whether it will be repeated or not. Well, since we don't want to use the mask, we will disable it. In the responsive section, you can choose which devices the Add to Wishlist button will be displayed on. For example, we will activate hide on desktop and the Add to Wishlist button will not be displayed on desktop. But it will be displayed on tablets and mobiles. And from the attribute section, you can add the special attribute you want from the button. And from the custom CSS section, you can consider custom CSS for the button. And finally, you can create this different look just as easily. That's it. I hope you find this video helpful and share it with your friends. Have a good day. Goodbye.